guys, it's Frank from Cruising with Wheels. Don't be a wimp when you're on a cruise. Sometimes you have to be aggressive and assertive. It's your cruise, baby. You're gonna have to work to make it happen the way you want it to be. And we'll let you know how it all works in this episode of Frank Pushes Back. Now, when you get on your cruise, I'm sorry, but it's crazy that first day of embarkation. Sometimes it's dog eat dog, and there's a lot of things going on. But one of the things that you need to really worry about is if you get into your cabin and you find out that it's filthy, dirty, it hasn't been cleaned, there's trash there from the previous guests. I'm sorry, but you need to make that call. Maybe your beds aren't set up the way you wanted to. Now, a lot of times when Kevin and I get into the cabin, those twin beds are not put together to make one king-size bed. Inevitably, we have to make that call to guest services and let them know that the room has to be set up properly the way we booked it and ordered it to be. So don't be a wimp. Make that call, because in all probability, you haven't even met your cabin steward yet. And talking about your cabin steward, if you haven't met your cabin steward by the second or third day, something is wrong, because that's not normal. You should meet your cabin steward the first day. You know, on every cruise we have been on, we have seen our cabin steward all day long, morning, noon, and night. And I'm telling you, if your impression isn't, oh my God, when do these people sleep? Because I'm seeing them all day long, then something isn't right. We were on one cruise. It was a Carnival cruise, and we had not met our cabin steward. 2 days went by. It's not normal. You should be meeting them. They should know who you are. You should be seeing them in the hallways outside your cabin. Make the call to guest services. Excuse me, who's my cabin steward? It's day 2. It's day 3. I don't even know who they are. I've never met them. I'm not even sure they've even been in my cabin. Don't be a wimp. Make the call. How about if a crew member or officer has been rude and obnoxious? Well, that's not right. That's not good customer service. Take names. Write the dates, the times, the locations. Call or go to guest services. No tip for you. That's right. They don't deserve it. I'm sorry. Don't take away your tips from everybody on the cruise. Make sure that guest services knows you had a problem with this crew member. I mean, it's happened. You know, 99.9999 times the crew members are absolutely awesome. But you know what? They're human beings. Shit happens. And if it happens to you, don't be a wimp about it. I remember the time we were on a cruise. I think it was the NCL Gem. Kevin was trying to find out if the cabins were ready. And an officer, there were a lot of guests in down the corridor, I guess that shouldn't have been. He let the other ones go. But Kevin, he grabbed his arm. And Kevin said, you had better take your arm off me right now, buddy. I don't care who you are, officer or not. You don't touch anyone. Report. That's right. No wimps here. Maybe you've been tooling around the ship and you see something that's not very safe. Something that could injure a crew member or a passenger. something that isn't secured, something that could fall on a small child. See something, say something. I mean, I'm not saying you got to run to guest services every 5 minutes, but you certainly don't want someone to get hurt. If we were to see something that maybe isn't secured, or an incident that something almost fell on someone, we're going to make sure that we grab the nearest officer that we see and let them know. Because I don't know, I don't want that on my conscience the next day when we go to that area and we see that an accident did happen and there's a poor guest on a stretcher being taken away. I mean, could you live with yourself? I know we couldn't. So, see something, say something. What if you have noisy, screaming, fighting, drunken cabin neighbors? I know we've had it. Yep, morning, noon, and night, all you hear from your balcony or through the cabin walls is screaming, knockdown, drag-out fights. What do? Do you say to yourself, oh, well, I don't want to get involved. None of my business what's going on in that cabin. Well, yeah, half of that is true. It's, really none of your business. However, it is your business if it's interfering in your cruise experience. You paid your money just like everyone else. Why should their crazy, obnoxious, drunken, fighting behavior interfere with your cruising experience? It shouldn't. I'm sorry. We've made the call. And you know what? In this day and age, when on the news every week there's somebody being thrown over the ship rails or some passenger being beaten down by their husband or wife in a hallway, that's bad news. Don't want to get involved? I don't want to open my cabin door and find a dead body being hauled out of the next cabin because I didn't report something when I heard something that was bad, something that was violent, something that you wouldn't put up when you were at home. Why would you put up with it on a cruise? Make the call. Stand for what's right. Or how about if you booked an excursion and it was totally not what was represented? I remember Kevin and I were on a tour bus. It was on Grand Cayman, and it was supposed to be a tour of the island. Well, you know what it ended up being? It ended up being the Grand Cayman Island real estate tour. Because, the bus driver, all he did was take us to houses that his brother was a real estate agent for. Did we see the sights of Cayman Island? No. We saw houses he wanted to sell us. Oh, that's not right. We were pissed, along with everybody else. Because when we all got off that bus tour and got back on the ship, everybody on that tour was lined up at the excursion desk demanding a refund. And we got it. We didn't just go back to our cabin or go up to the buffet for lunch and cry about what a horrible time we had and it just wasn't right. And I don't think that, that was really worth it. No, we went and got our money back. Be aggressive, be assertive when something isn't right. How about the worst thing ever? You smell cigarette smoke. Someone is smoking on the next balcony. Or you walk by a cabin and the door's open and you can see the cigarette smoke wafting in the room. You all know what I'm talking about. Though, if you've been to a bar, people have been smoking. You walk in that front door, you can see the blue haze of smoke. Smoking on a cruise ship is the biggest and most dangerous thing that can happen. Don't want to get involved? Don't want to narc on your cabin neighbor? Too bad. Oh, what, are you going to sit back while the whole ship burns up and sinks to the bottom of the ocean? See something, say something. Report them as soon as you can. That kind of behavior can kill a lot of people. How about something as simple as you want to book a dinner reservation at a specialty restaurant? You've got your heart set on that first sea day you're going to go to Cagney Steakhouse or the Scarlet restaurant on Carnival. Big cowboy steak. Whatever it is, Italian, Brazilian, I don't know, Asian, doesn't matter, but you want it. And you got your heart set on it. So you make the call, or you go there and you say, you don't want to book a reservation. And they go, I'm sorry, but we have no openings for Tuesday night. Do you just go, okay, and walk away? No. You stand there and you say, okay, well, is there another night you can get us in? Or can you put us on a waiting list? Don't just accept no as an answer and just walk away disappointed. Stand up, be assertive, be aggressive, and go down the checklist of what you need to do to make that dinner happen. That's right. You have to take part in the success of your own cruise vacation. How about being overcharged? Yep, trust me, it happens all the time. When you buy something, look at that receipt. Make sure you haven't been overcharged. Go onto your TV or a kiosk on the ship and check your shipboard account. It happens. Half of the time you see charges on it that aren't yours. You didn't buy a drink yesterday at such and such bar. You didn't make a purchase. You're going to need to go to guest services and make sure that gets off your shipboard account. And let me tell you, please, I'm begging you, don't wait for the final day to check that onboard account and find out that there's all these mistakes, because you're going to be down at guest services with hundreds and hundreds of other passengers in line for hours trying to get those bills corrected. So, advice, check it daily. The next morning when you get out of bed, before you head off to do whatever it is you want to do, check your onboard account for the previous day and make sure it's correct. You don't want to be overcharged. And you don't want to handle that kind of stuff when the bill comes to your room and you're like, what's all this? I didn't buy anything there. I never had a drink there. I didn't go to this restaurant. Who was that? You know, errors happen. People are just human, so make sure it doesn't happen to you. The worst thing is when you've anticipated a wonderful dinner. Yep, you're in the main dining room or a specialty restaurant, maybe that you've paid for. And out comes a drink that you want to just dump down the toilet. It isn't anything close to what you ordered. You know, Kevin and I are very particular on our Cosmos. And if it's not made right, we send it back. We travel now with our own recipe on how to make a Cosmo. And if it comes out the first time and it's not right, we pull out our little slip of paper and say, this is how you make it. You got to make it happen. Don't just accept a drink that isn't right. Send it back. There was a time 2 drinks came out and they were wrong. And when the assistant maitre d' said, I'll make sure this happens right, he went and made it himself. And he came, and when he put it on the table, Kevin and I looked at that Cosmo and said, that looks correct. And we looked at him and he said, it is. I used to be a bartender. I know how to make a New York Cosmo correctly. And we were like, good for you. Good for us, because we made it happen. And dinner. Dinner comes out. You don't want bloody raw fried chicken. You don't want gummy pasta. You don't want tough leather steak. Don't just sit there and accept what they drop in front of you. Call over your waiter, your server, tell them it's not right, and send it back. Don't just sit there and eat what isn't prepared properly or tastes awful, and then go, oh, it was a horrible dinner. Would have been a better dinner if you sent it back and got what you wanted. So, again, it's up to you to make it happen. Now, I just want to say that, this all sounds like a lot of complaining and a lot of reporting to guest services, but you know what? I'm not saying all this stuff is going to happen to you. In all probability, none of it will happen on your cruise, but maybe 1 or maybe 2. And you're probably thinking, well, gosh, I sound like a big old complainer, narking on everybody, tattletaling. But you know what? Didn't you spend a lot of money for this cruise? Didn't you spend a lot of time planning for it? Maybe you booked it a year ago. You've waited all year to go on this really great cruise vacation. Are you now going to get on the cruise ship and just accept some of these scenarios that I've talked about? No, you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. You don't want to go home and people are going to go, so, did you have a great time? Was it everything you thought it would be? And you're going to sit there and go, oh my God, the food was awful, the drinks were crap, there were crazy people on it fighting and arguing and this and that and, running down the whole thing. You're your own worst enemy, people, because you were a wimp. You didn't stand up for yourself and make it a vacation that you wanted it to be. So that's what it's all about. Taking control of your own vacation. You paid for it. It should be what you want. So that's all I'm saying here. So I want to remind everybody to join me next time for another crazy wild episode of Frank Pushes Back. And on behalf of Kevin and myself from Cruising with Wheels, I want to remind all of you that if you're not a regular subscriber to our YouTube channel and you're just watching this video just because you're like, oh wow, this guy is cuckoo crazy, hit that subscribe button. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. So, I want to remind everybody to travel safe and cruise often.